Next question, do you see differences between those IoT devices used for personal use or for health use and those used for industrial applications?
Yes and no. I think I think both for professional healthcare and industrial there could be similarities, and of course for all the consumer stuff, the Apples and Googles and Samsungs, Amazons of the world, they will dominate that. But to a large degree, many of these devices or IoT devices, they will measure the same parameters, but it's a little bit like when we have components for special uses. There are military specified components and there are commercial grade specified components. And I think we will see the same for these IoT devices, that it's more a reliability question and not so much about what they can actually do.
So are there different development tracks in that case, developing products for these separate markets?
I think so, yes, because it's going to, the whole R&D process is also affected by this. One thing is that a lot of the consumer devices, they will be produced in extremely high volume, yes. And it means cost and so on will also be low for these devices, where the more professional devices will be produced in much lower volume, and therefore there's a difference. And there's also a difference on how you have to do the R&D, because if you do a device, whether it's a special safety device you use in industry, then it has to maybe to follow the SIL standard, or if you do healthcare devices for hospitals, then there might be FDA approvals and stuff that you have to do, and that affects the whole R&D process, because there's documentation you have to do and so on. So it's not only the basic electronic development, which of course is fairly comparable.
I guess you would have a very good perspective on this, because RTX has its own dedicated design services division.
Yes, absolutely. We do this more or less every day. Even though it's low volume products, we have to take care that they are actually produced at a reasonable cost. So yes. Stuff like design for manufacturing is very important. And another thing I'd like to bring up in that perspective is that in order to keep costs down for these more lower volume products as well, even though they'll never be as cheap as a consumer grade product that is produced in billions of devices in some cases, then using IoT, like you see we talk about Industry 4.0, especially in Europe, right? Using that to help manufacture IoT devices will actually help keeping costs down and keeping quality and reliability at a very high level.
Perhaps you can tell us in a little more detail how RTX fits into all of this.
Sure. RTX, in fact, the design service group of RTX, in fact, can help the customers from the very beginning of a project, idea phase, yes. All the way through to manufacturing. We have a lot of expertise that we can bring into play early on. Like we talked a little bit about before, that it's of course very important that you do design for manufacturing. Yes. But I mean, all the way when you need, or when you start up a project, you need to do a idea phase and design specifications and so on. And of course, we have many customers that know this by heart. They've been doing it many times. But there are other customers that are not really. They have very good ideas, but they are not so much into electronics. So we help transform the ideas into electrical specifications, and then we do the development. And if the customer wants, we can take it all the way and actually even handle the production for those guys. So we can do a full chain and even brand the devices with a customer's name and ship them to the warehouse if need be.
It sounds like a one-stop shop solution if that's what the customer needs.
Absolutely, that's possible.
Well, it was Bluetooth that first brought Incisor and RTX together many years ago, but you seem to recover a lot of ground.
Yeah, I would say Bluetooth is coming back now.
Yes.
But I'm sure we'll have a lot of interesting discussions about this in the coming years, and we are going to have a lot of customers on Bluetooth again in the coming years. But still, all our proprietary solutions is something that many of our more specialized customers will be looking for, especially in industry. We've been talking about security and safety and so on, and that often requires special proprietary solutions that we do a lot of with our customers.
Well, it's important that you give the customer what the customer wants, whether that's a standardized solution or proprietary, isn't it? It's the right product at the right time for the right customer.
Absolutely, because clearly if you need to control something from an app or from the internet as such, then at some point in time you have to move from proprietary into a standard to be able to talk to the device.
Yes. And
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, they are obviously very important in this area.
Well, I understand that RTX is involved with edge computing. How does that align versus cloud computing?
The way we see it is that you need both. So therefore we support both. We obviously support standard cloud interfaces like MQTT and so on. But we are actually, our company has been a wireless company for more than 20 years. But we are actually looking into expanding our value chain to look more at the sensor end of things, exactly because of the edge computing is really needed to keep current consumption of the sensors down and also to keep the bandwidth down. On the other hand, sometimes you really need raw data to put into a machine like IBM's Watson, for instance, to make it really learn what is going on. So I actually see that you need probably two modes in many of the sensors so that you can feed machine learning algorithms like Watson with the raw data, and then maybe the machine learning algorithms can feed you back information that you then can use to compress the data, and thereby going from cloud-based computing back to edge-based computing. That's one way of doing it. Of course, another way, which is also one of the reasons why we are looking at expanding our value chain and looking more at some of the sensors, is that if you really understand how your sensor is working and what you're measuring, then you can do analytical compression, so you can actually transfer data with very little loss, or maybe even completely without any loss, by doing the edge computing, and then get more or less all the data through to the cloud anyway, and therefore again you have a very good combination.
Well, it sounds like trends like this are forcing RTX, but I guess it's not an unwilling process to be adaptive and to evolve your own skill sets as well.
Sure, absolutely. We do that all the time, and we're very happy about it. It's very much like taking this. I think RTX is originally a company out of Denmark in Scandinavia, right? But now with subsidiaries in both US, Hong Kong, some in China and Japan and Romania and so on. The way we have been doing this in Scandinavia has always been that we have had taken this step back, look at the system, how do we actually make the most optimum system. And this is just what we're doing here. Again, we are evolving and we are looking at the broader picture, and then we find out how does it actually work the best possible way, and we don't mind it at all. It's we have many examples in the past where we have done something similar. It's like a good example we have is that we had a customer that needed to transfer some signals in an environment where you had both very strong and very weak signals.
Mm-hmm.
And this is normally a big problem because it gives very high linearity problems or requirements. But if you look at it from a system perspective, then if you make sure that the strong signals and the weak signals are at least divided in time and not only in frequency, then you can optimize your system. And it's very much the same thing that we are doing today when we are looking at expanding a little bit in the value chain, so that we can optimize the overall system.
So it pays to be nimble, doesn't it?
It definitely does.